Hey kids, Mr. Anderson here with our last video before we take the test on Friday. Today's topic is World War II. This is going to be a brief, very brief overview of World War II, hitting some of the highlights and creating the big picture as to what was going on in Europe before the United States got involved and then what the United States involvement in World War II meant. Now, what I would suggest is going through the PowerPoints after the test and specifically viewing some of the videos that I have uploaded. That is where you're going to get really what's important about World War II, and that is the personal experiences of the greatest generation as they made their way through the most difficult time in American history. So I'm going to be hitting highlights for the test, but there are so many more lessons of World War II that we will be continuing to do next week after the test. But we do have a test to take in 2 days, so here we go. What is going on in the 1930s? In 1933, Adolf Hitler is named the Chancellor of Germany, and he takes complete power within Germany. There is no legislature. He is the power. He is the first and the last word.
I am the Senate.
At the same time, there are other dictators that are concentrating power. Mussolini in Italy. You're going to have Stalin in the Soviet Union. It is going to be a very dangerous and volatile situation simply because democracies and republican forms of government are going away. Now, as this is going on, the United States remains neutral.
That is not my job.
Yeah, that was my catchphrase.
That is not my job.
You don't do it right.
We don't want anything to do with this. We have our own problems. We have the Great Depression. Most Americans aren't even paying attention to this. They might read a headline in the paper, but they got their own problems. In Great Britain, the strongest democracy in Europe, what they are doing is they are practicing what's called appeasement. That is, Hitler makes demands. They meet those demands for the promise that Hitler won't do anything else, that will be the end. Specifically, he wants some land that is on either side of Germany that has been disputed land after World War I, and he is going to be given that land by Prime Minister Chamberlain. Prime Minister Chamberlain says, look, we'll give you this as long as you don't cause any trouble. And good old Adolf Hitler says, no problem. This is all I want. I don't want anything else. I'm good after this.
This is a load of barnacles.
Chamberlain goes back to England, makes a little speech. Everybody cheers him. Woo! I have preserved peace in our time. And they think that's all. The only problem is you can't negotiate with crazy, and that's exactly what we have. In the next few years, what is going to happen is Italy is going to invade North Africa. They're going to invade Greece and Albania in southern Europe, and then you are going to have the Germans invade Poland. He has a really nice little deal. Hitler has a nice little deal with Joseph Stalin in a non-aggression pact. That is, hey, we can invade whatever we want. We can take the booty from these countries that we are invading, but we won't invade each other. And what they're going to do is they're both going to invade Poland from either side. And this is really the kickoff of World War II, because after Poland is invaded and it's conquered in a matter of weeks, what is going to happen? France and Great Britain are going to declare war on Germany, and then all the other countries are going to follow, just like World War I. However, this time, Germany is not going to fight to a standstill in France. What they're going to do is they're going to invade Belgium and the Netherlands and Denmark and France, and they're just going to overrun all of Western Europe. They're going to take it. They're going to control it, and it's going to be fast. This gets the United States' attention. However, still got our own problems. And on the other side of the globe, you have a problem in Asia. You have Japan with its ruling class in Imperial Japan, and they'd like to do the same thing that Hitler's doing in Europe in Asia. They want to take it. They want to control it. They want to create an empire. And they're going to start by invading China and other Asian countries and just exploiting them. And they're just brutal in their capturing of Asia. So you have a lot of evil at a lot of places in the world who are oppressing people, exploiting people, killing people. They are just causing chaos wherever they go. United States, neutral. Then Hitler is what's going to start forcing the United States' hand is going to be the Battle of Britain. Great Britain is the last major democracy left in Europe, and Hitler decides this is our next step. So what he does is he uses his Luftwaffe, his air force, to bomb British cities night after night, day after day, dropping hundreds of thousands of tons of bombs all over Great Britain, trying to destroy it. If you've ever seen Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, that's what's going on at the very beginning, is the Luftwaffe bombing London. London's on fire. Other major cities are on fire. Tens of thousands of people have been killed. Hundreds of thousands of people are homeless. It is absolute chaos. But fortunately, for Great Britain and the rest of the world, Prime Minister Chamberlain has been replaced by Prime Minister Churchill. Churchill is an inspiring leader. He is responsible for telling the British people, look, we're not giving up. We are not going to give in like France and these other countries. We are British, and the British persevere, and we are going to stand our ground, even if it takes the very last British citizen. We are not going to give up. We're not going to surrender. And what eventually happens is it hands Hitler his first setback. Not necessarily a loss, but fighting to a draw has not happened to any of these dictators in Europe or in Asia at this point. Hitler also, being the military genius that he is going to make a fatal error, thinking how wonderful he is and how easy this has been for Germany. He's going to invade the Soviet Union. He's going to break that non-aggression pact.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Idiot sandwich what?
An idiot sandwich, Chef Ramsay.
When he does, he has now created a war in which he's going to eventually have to fight on 2 and then 3 different fronts. What is going to happen is once he invades the Soviet Union and we have the Battle of Britain going on, the United States is now paying attention. They have not entered the war, but they are giving weapons, providing weapons and things to England so that they can fend off Hitler. But it's going to take something direct to get America involved in the war. Now remember, these things are going on 2 different continents on either side of the globe. America is paying attention to what Japan is doing in Europe or what Japan is doing in Asia, and what they do is they freeze all of their assets. They set up monetary punishments against Japan. What Japan is going to be doing and what they are doing is planning an attack. And on December 7th, 1941, Japan is going to directly attack the United States at Pearl Harbor. Over 2,400 Americans are killed. The Pacific Fleet is severely damaged in Pearl Harbor. And the next day, Franklin Roosevelt is going to ask for a declaration of war against Germany, Japan, and all Axis powers.
That's it! Get out of the car! It's go time! You and me!
So that's where we stand. That is the lead up to how we get involved in World War II. Now, what does that mean for the United States? Well, I want you to understand one of the most amazing things and unique things about World War II is it is probably the most united that America has ever been in its history. We are all in after Pearl Harbor. And when I say all in, I mean everybody. There is no significant anti-war movement in World War II. Are there little pockets here and there? Absolutely. But people by the hundreds of thousands and millions rush to sign up. Everybody wants to do their part. It doesn't matter if you're a Hollywood actor, if you're a farmer, if you are an electrician, if you are a business person, everybody wants to help out. Baseball, Major League Baseball can't have a season because so many major leaguers sign up to fight in the war. Not as kind of a publicity stunt, but they actually want to fight. It is an era of cooperation, of sacrifice, of unity. it's hard to imagine just how united they are, especially in our day and age, especially right now. We can't even unite over a pandemic. But when World War II strikes, it is such a huge event, it's such a huge threat that the United States comes together. It doesn't matter about differences. There's a common goal to defeat evil. We have recognized evil. We're facing evil more than we ever have before, and we will do together what we have to do to defeat it. Now, our biggest asset or contribution to the war is not just men and not just the fight, but it's manufacturing. The United States is going to become what FDR labels the arsenal of democracy. That is, we can kick out planes and aircraft carriers and guns and boots and hats and uniforms and cookware way faster than anybody else. We are going to make and outbuild and outmake every single country around the world.
Nobody can hang with my stuff. I'm just a big, hairy American winning machine. If you ain't first, you're last. You know what I'm talking about? That phrase is trademark, not to use that position to Ricky Bobby.
That includes our allies and our enemies. We can build aircraft carriers. So if we lose an aircraft carrier, we can build 2 more. That is not the case with every other country. We are going to overwhelm people with our manufacturing. Now, how does this all get started? We already talked about Pearl Harbor, but as an example of what I want you to go back and look at, one of the slides talks about Corregidor. Corregidor is an island that guards the Philippines. When the Japanese invade Corregidor, we still have a fort and people stationed there guarding the Philippines, going all the way back to the Spanish-American War. They overrun it. The Japanese overrun it, and when they do, they take the United States soldiers and Filipino soldiers, and they are going to march them 60 miles inland on an island called Bataan. And when they do, they're going to march them. They're not going to feed them. They're not going to give them water. If you stop marching, you are going to die. And they suffer through these horrible, horrendous, terrifying experiences in Japanese prison camps. Now, I bring that up. We're not going to hit all the battles and all the details, but I bring that up because that's an example of one of the videos that I want you to watch. There is a older gentleman who experienced that Bataan Death March, and he's going to tell his story. And whether it's Corregidor or whether it's Midway or it is Iwo Jima or the Battle of the Bulge, what I'd like you to do, and I want to reemphasize this, to please watch those videos and really reflect on just how tremendously awesome the sacrifice that this generation took to provide us and preserve what we have today. But as we move on, what I want you to know, we're going to run through this really quickly. All of this stuff is going on simultaneously. We thought World War I was chaos because Europe was engulfed in a war. Well, now this is global. This is Europe. It's Asia. It's all over the place. So just to run through really, really quickly what is going on, our strategy at first is to contain Japan. Japan has basically taken the entire Pacific Ocean. They own it. Every island, they have it. It's theirs. They occupy it. Now, that's a lot of territory. At the same time, that's a whole lot to defend. So what the United States says, look, they can't spread out anymore. They're maxed out. So we can contain them. So let's at first focus on what's going on in Europe. Our strategy in Japan or in the Pacific is eventually going to be this. We're going to island hop. That is, if you look at all the islands in the Pacific, we're going to go island to island to island. We're going to avoid some of the more fortified islands until we get in striking distance of mainland Japan. So that is the plan. That's what they're trying to do. The major battle in the island hopping strategy, which is going to be the turning point of the war in the Pacific, is going to be Midway. Midway is a tiny little island. It's really not that significant, but is what is going to happen in the Battle of the Midway. We are going to sink or damage 4 aircraft carriers for the Japanese. And what happens is they can't replace them. Okay, that's it. It's the heart of the Japanese Navy. It's also the same ships that carried the planes that bombed Pearl Harbor. So there is not only a strategic, a real advantage in winning the Battle of Midway, but there's also an emotional lift. Hey, we got them back. Here's the revenge.
Do you know the Klingon proverb that tells us revenge is a dish that is best served cold?
I again encourage you to watch the story of Dick Best. They've made a movie about it now, but you can see the real Dick Best and his story of exactly what Midway was like. But strategically, the big picture, that is the turning point in the Pacific. If you were asked a question about battles in World War II, Midway is definitely one of those ones that you want to hit. Now, as this is going on, we are also going to move into North Africa. And the plan is to control North Africa, where the Italians had invaded, and we are going to attack through Italy. We are going to attack what is termed the soft underbelly of Europe and move our way up Italy, take out Mussolini and take out Italy, and then we'll move into Germany. Now, at the same time, the Soviet Union, Stalin's like, hey, come on, you got it. We don't want you taking on Italy. We need to open up a front on the West. We need you to invade the West. So take some of this heat off of Russia. At this time, the German army has stalled in the Soviet Union. They really never looked to see exactly how cold it is and how much it snows in Russia. And really what stops their army is the cold and the snow.
I'll give you a winter prediction. It's going to be cold. It's going to be gray, and it's going to last you for the rest of your life.
And the Russians have been employing a strategy which Western countries are not used to called scorched earth. They are retreating. They're retreating on purpose. As they retreat, they are destroying their own stuff so that the German army has nothing to supply their army with. And what is going to happen once they get too far into Russia? It's going to snow, it's going to be cold, and then the Russians are going to en masse counterattack. So that's the situation that is going on the Eastern Front. And Stalin is screaming for the United States and Great Britain to open up another front. And that's where we get to D-Day, the largest amphibious assault in the history of the world. Again, I'm going to encourage you to read the stories and listen to the stories on D-Day. We are going to be focusing in on this next week after the test is over. I want you to listen to those stories, look at the pictures, and understand just how important, sacrificial all of this was. But we'll be covering that next week as well. So this large, tremendous invasion is going to finally open up a Western front. At this point, once the United States and Canadians and the British establish a presence in Western Europe, it's really all over for Hitler. We know if anybody's ever been through any kind of training, military training, one of the worst things you can find yourself in is a crossfire. Well, Hitler's going to be in a crossfire from three different directions: from Italy, from the Soviet Union, and from the Western Front in France. So it's only a matter of time until these forces are going to advance into Germany, the Russians into Poland, and then what they're going to discover is something horrific. This is when U.S. soldiers are going to encounter what had been going on in Germany for years and years and years, and that is the Holocaust. 6 million Jews are killed in the Holocaust, and these young boys are going to be liberating these camps and just see these horrific things that they can never imagine that another human could do. And we're going to focus on that next week as well. So they're going to experience these things. They're going to close out World War II in Europe, and it's time to turn our attention to Japan. When we go into Japan, we are going to continue our island hopping, get to Iwo Jima and Okinawa. Once we get to the island of Okinawa at a great cost, we are now in striking distance of mainland Japan. Now, what we have here is a new president. President Truman, FDR, has died in office, and he has one of the most critical decisions to make in the history of the United States presidency, and that is, do we fight a traditional battle in mainland Japan? Do we invade just like D-Day or just like Okinawa, or can we use this new weapon that we have, an atomic bomb? And what is decided, it really comes down to numbers, and that is, it is going to cost far fewer lives to drop this horrible weapon on cities in Japan than it would to invade. So what he decides to do is drop the bomb on Hiroshima and then Nagasaki, forcing the unconditional surrender of Japan. So for all intents and purposes, this is going to end World War II as far as the combat, but there's going to be a lot of building to do. There's going to be a lot of relationships to repair. It is also going to be the initiation of the Cold War, because after this is over, the Soviet Union is going to control all of Eastern Europe, and they are going to think that they're owed something. So the United States is going to engage in some strategies to heal the world so that now the Soviets can advance and communism can advance. Now that is a super, super fast overview of World War II. Again, next week, we are going to be talking about this in terms that are very personal and lessons to be learned that are vital for you here now. This is not just going to be stories of way back when. We are going to be talking about, and we're going to be experiencing things as to how we apply lessons from the greatest generation, things that were successful and mistakes inside our borders and outside. And how do we learn from this generation? You don't get named the greatest generation by accident. We are going to be learning from them and how we apply those things to our lives. But I hope this helps you out a little bit for the test. It's unlikely that you get a really easy question about what are the 3 greatest battles? But just in case, if you get a question like that, make sure you go through your notes and go through PowerPoints and know exactly the details that are in those PowerPoints, as well as your reading reviews. So good luck on the test. I won't be talking to you until after the test. I hope you all do well. And remember, I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's your decision and your decision alone to take that test. If you choose to do so, awesome. If you choose not to do so, that's okay too. I am proud of you no matter what the situation. So if you choose to take it, good luck. Remember, give it your best shot and then be satisfied with the results. Mr. Anderson, out.